Please keep in your thoughts and prayers the Farmingdale community who suffered a tragic loss last week in a terrible bus accident that resulted in the loss of two of their members. Please understand that the Sachem community stands with that Farmingdale community with whatever needs they possibly need. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We turn to Dr. Pelletieri, okay, who's going to present some awards and recognize some schools for great work that they do.
President Scavo, thank you so much. I do want to first bring everyone's attention to our monitors. First time ever, we haven't really had the Sachem seal on there. We have the Farmingdale seal with the Sachem seal, and everyone knows I'm emotional already, always. So this is an emotional moment. Good friends with Mr. DiFendini, who is the superintendent there at Farmingdale School District. I don't often admit that there may be a better superintendent around than me, but if there is one, it is Mr. DiFendini. And if there's a better person than me, it is Mr. DiFendini as well. Great, great person. And obviously we're all impacted by this tragedy. Almost personally with me, I got a lot of texts from people. I want to thank the community. I actually have a sister named Gina Pelletieri. Her name is spelled differently. My name is spelled differently. The tragic passing of the band teacher there in Farmingdale, who spells her name slightly different. But so many people reached out to me, and I want to thank those people. And let's keep Mrs. Pelletieri from Farmingdale certainly in our prayers. The students there, that community, and I talk a lot about culture of care and Sachem Cares, and we created a little hashtag Sachem Cares. But my goodness, this is where it really comes out. I feel it personally. I know our staff does as well. I got so many incredible smiling pictures of kids yesterday in their green. A lot of them wearing Inside Out Jets t-shirts for some reason. I don't know why, but that was the only green I guess they had in the house. But I know so many people, and so we wore green yesterday. We got a lot of pictures. I want to send all that to Mr. DiFendini and our friends and the board in Farmingdale. Mr. Scavo penned a great letter from our board to them, again, offering anything they need. Marching band community is a small one. Our kids were certainly impacted, and our staff as well. Just want to reach out to them again and let them know we're thinking about them. We will send all the pictures that we took from yesterday. So many in our community wearing green and being thoughtful about our friends and colleagues and families in Sachem, and I think this reflects it as well. So I'd love for us as a board to come down and take a picture. We'll send it to our friends in Farmingdale and family with the background, the monitors in the background, if you don't mind getting those as well. If we turn over our boardroom for a day to be a Daler for a day. So thank you very much.
I thought about it. I did too.
Okay, thank you so much, everyone. I would like to bring up Mr. Butel and Mr. Torregrossa, who sent me a very nice email a week or so ago detailing awards that both our schools won in terms of athletics and academics. I love when we compare those things together. So, Mr. Butel, go right ahead.
Thank you. Good evening, President Scavo, members of the Board of Education, Dr. Pelletieri, and members of the Cabinet. 2 weeks ago, while in attendance at a New York State Public High School Athletic Association meeting, Dr. Zayas, the executive director, presented Sachem with 2 Scholar Athlete Awards. The 2 awards he presented are the School of Excellence Award for Sachem East and the School of Distinction Award for Sachem North. Mr. Taragrosser and I would like to present the awards to the BOE and to the high schools through the principals so that they may be displayed in the high school showcase. The School of Excellence Award is given to a school that has greater than 75% of the athletic teams in the varsity program that have been recognized as scholar athlete teams. Sachem East was at 97%. The School of Distinction Award is given to a school that has 100% of their varsity teams achieve the criteria for earning a Scholar Athlete Team Award. It goes without saying that our student athletes are excelling in the classroom while competing on the varsity team, on the fields, the tracks, the courts, the gyms, the pools, the golf courses, and the bowling alleys. We are extremely proud of our students, the parents, the teachers, coaches, administrators, and the BOE for working hard in order for our district to be successful and recognized by the New York State Public High School Association as scholar athletes. Can I please have Mr. Lou Antonetti come up and receive his award? And here for Sachem North is Mr. Patrick Burke. Thank you.
I feel like I could, do a mic drop there. It's pretty amazing the reputation of Sachem from someone who was far away. Athletics, right? Athletics. And one thing I said, I'm going to get when we first got here, right? I'm going to get academics right there. People are going to start talking about academics and look, that is unbelievable. At North and at 75% at East, 100% at North. Those awards really mean something, right? That our kids representing us on those playing fields and those coaches, it means a lot. The leadership in the buildings and leadership of the board as well. And we're building our theater program as well, which is going to match that program. It's just really a proud moment for me. And Mr. Butel and Phil, your leadership in academic in the athletics and sports as well. I appreciate it. So congratulations to us, really, our students, our staff for having that type of excellence in the classroom and on the playing field. So once again, thank you. Okay, one more that we've been waiting for, and we have a young lady here, Ariana Schumann. Ariana, are you out here? Hi, Ariana. Come on up, Ariana. Mr. Antonetti, you have a little something to say about Ariana? Come on up.
Good evening, everybody. Ariana Schumann. She's a junior at High School East. And as part of her Girl Scout Gold Award, she refurbished 2 gardens in Stony Brook at Angela's House. This is a local nonprofit that assists families while caring for medically frail children. She filled the gardens with new bushes and plants, while also creating a rock garden that features stones painted with the names of children who have passed away. The Gold Award is the highest achievement attainable within the Girl Scouts of America. At school, Ariana is secretary of our Teens as Teachers Club, vice president of our American Sign Language Club, a member of our soccer and track teams, and also our National Honor Society. In her spare time, she serves as junior firefighter with the Farmingville Fire Department. Ariana is a kind soul whose giving, selfless actions will be sure to lift the spirits of those at Angela's House. Nice work, Ariana, and thank you so much.
So, Ariana, go to that microphone for a second, if you don't mind. Why do you do all that you do?
Because I really like helping people. It's something I'm very passionate about.
Is that something that is a hallmark of your family? Did you learn this from seeing a model in your family? Is it something that just came to you, or?
Well, in my family, it just came to me. My mom, my dad, my grandma, everybody in my family is very helping out whenever they get a chance to. So I really wanted to just honor that because they always do everything for us. So I wanted to take on actions like that.
In particular, why Angela's House? Did that mean something personal to you, your family, or?
I mean, as I said, I do like helping people, and I knew somebody who has done something associated with Angela's House before, and this one that I went to, nothing has been created or done any projects on. I had the opportunity to take on that Angela's House and figure out something to do with it to help the people.
And you also run a club over at East, or help run a club, Teens for Teachers?
Yes, Teens as Teachers.
Teens as, I was going to say Teens for Teachers. That'd be nice. We have some Teens for Teachers. What's Teens as Teachers?
So we gather around and we learn lessons, and then we go to the middle school, Sagamore and Seneca, and we teach the 6th graders about goals, peer pressure, and all that kind of stuff to just help them for high school and real life.
Does it help you as well, you think, when you go down and do that?
It does, yes, because I also love teaching, and just seeing smiles on the little kids' faces just makes me really happy.
Are you going to become a teacher yourself, you think?
I hope so, yes.
What do you want to teach?
In an elementary school.
Oh, so that's you got to learn everything then.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you come back because you embody that spirit, that Sachem Cares, that culture of care that we want everyone in this district to embody. So thank you so much. We're really proud of you.
Thank you.
Take a picture up front, okay?
Yeah, we're going to call on you soon. Let's, let me, before we do the presentation, I'll just do my, a quick busing update. We started out this year very difficult time, as you know, just to reiterate concerns around many of our mini buses. We had our guests from We Transport come and speak with us and try to work through those issues. That work is ongoing. I have a new daily meeting that I've had for 2 weeks now with Michelle. We've cleared our calendars, and every day at noon. There's no lunch there. There should be lunch or something in your office when I come, but every day at noon, we meet with transportation. And today they brought the gentleman from who was here, again, hand working those routes. We give them a list each day that they're looking at to try and make routes that are long shorter, to try and make routes that are late come on time. It is amazing the intricacy with which they need to work to make these things all work. And so for today, for example, they talked about 2 buses leaving east, bus 4 and bus 5, and how bus 4 gets out ahead of bus 5. And when bus 4 stops on portion to do its pickups, bus 5 gets stuck behind it. And at each stop, now bus 5 is stopping at these stops as well. So it's almost as if they're on their own bus route before getting around 4 to get to its routes. So those are the types of things you learn over time as you develop a route, that we now need to move those routes, either start one out earlier or turn 4 into 5 or 5 into 4. But you have to go literally sometimes and live those routes route by route to make sure where a route is going, what time they are leaving. At North, we had routes going out Burma Road, so we could relieve some of the pressure in front of the building. Sometimes cars try to get in between the buses. They try to stay very tight so they can roll out all at the same time. Every time you make a light or don't make a light impacts a student in terms of the time there. So we still have some students that are coming to school late for school, and that's unacceptable. That must be fixed. We cannot deliver students late to school. We still have a bus 2105, who we talked about today, who doesn't show up to Chippewa till very late. So we have to rectify those things. And again, we go number by number. As I said, I'm learning more and more about buses than ever before. And we are getting closer. We are going name by name. And I have one particular student at East High School. He knows who he is, who emails me every day and gives me updates. Somehow he got my email and he gives me updates on the buses that he rides. And he said, I was a little late today. I guess it wasn't my lucky day. And we have a little conversation almost each day. And again, we're getting closer. We need to do better. We are going to be putting out an RFP, and that's going to go out in the papers this weekend, I believe, up to 35 routes. Again, that's a full third of what We does for us. But if that's what we need to do, we've told this board and this community, we're going to start to shift some things around if we can't get things done with the people who have this contract. So we're committed to that. We'll make sure that we get it done. And I know there are some questions, and I'll answer these now in case there's questions for the board. The tragedy in Farmingdale is a particular bus company. Coach is a type of any of those big fancy buses with the bathroom on, essentially is a coach bus. So there are many different coach bus companies. We do not use the coach bus company that was involved in that tragedy. And we do have safety checks and safety procedures for any bus company that does come in, whether a coach bus or our own buses. We often hire buses through BOCES, so they are vetted there as well. They actually send someone to our schools to safety check the buses before they go out. So buses always are a high priority for our students and our families in terms of safety, and I just wanted to alleviate some concerns around that. And we won't be using that particular company certainly during the outcome, as they await the outcome of any type of investigation. And we do not have any trips planned, nor have we used that particular company. So I just wanted people to know that. That's the my bus update. Any questions, Mr. Scavo?
Board regarding busing. It's just the one thing. I saw something recently that said that there's 42 bus companies that are actually rated unacceptable. Okay, and then there's a good amount that is rated acceptable, and I guess the highest is preferred. Do we check those ratings before we accept the company or allow a company to come in?
We definitely do. Mr. Servone is something, he's very prideful around our safety record, and that is something that we do check, and he does that constantly. And he's been in this business for a long time, so he can call up other companies and talk about their history with buses and things like that. And oftentimes he will get a mom and pop type of bus company. Hey, we could do this route or that route for you, and he'll do some serious vetting around those. And oftentimes we don't end up going with a lot of the offers he gets because of safety records and concerns.
Any other questions on the board? Thank you, Dr. Pelletier.
Thank you very much. The last part here, which is a great part, because we have some staff here tonight, some teachers, some administrators. And I want to introduce Mrs. Hines, who's going to do a little bit of an introduction. The board asked us to take a look at some of the curriculum we have throughout the district, and we're going to look at math science tonight, K through 12. We're going to talk about some standards and some of those things that we do here. You actually see a grid on the floor here. That's part of some of our high school drones that we do in our science program, so that'll be interesting. And I think it's a lot better than just sitting here, looking at standards, for example. So, Mrs. Hines, you want to take it away?
Yes, we are very excited to have our first district highlights for the different types of programs that we have throughout our schools. I want to thank Ms. Moran and the wonderful team of our staff who are presenting tonight. I know you don't all necessarily come to our board meetings. I don't know why. They're very exciting. But, I know you took the time to come out tonight. And they always get to hear, all the things that we do, but it's really important for them to hear from you, boots on the ground, the different types of programs we have at the different levels, and all the great things that our kids really get to experience each year. Okay, Ms. Moran.
So good evening, members of the board, cabinet, and the Sachem community. Tonight, we are just going to talk a little bit about some of the highlights in the districts for our math and science departments, K through 12. We're really excited to share some of this information with you. I also have some of our staff members here with us. So we have Melissa Arnow, who's one of our middle school math chairs, and she's over at Seneca. I have Shannon Murphy here. She's a math teacher at North High School. And Allison Dassaw, who is a third grade teacher at Merrimack and also a wonderful STEAM PA for us here in the district. So just, I'm going to give a quick overview for each of the levels for math and science. So with math, as you've heard me probably say before, over the last 5 years, we've really focused on implementing a math workshop with all of our classrooms in K through 5. This really allows us to address the content of the standards as well as provide small group instruction to all of our students regardless of their proficiency level. We've also been using NWEA, the MAP Growth Assessment, which again gives us targeted data, which helps us to create small groups for the workshop model. We can work on students' needs and also set instructional goals with our students. We've also embraced developing our math skills and concepts in a concrete, pictorial, and abstract process. That has not changed. Ever since the standards changed for us in K through 5, we've really kept that process in place no matter what curriculum resource we're using. So you could see some examples of that, like learning with 10 frames and cubes, really making things concrete and hands-on, dice, and then you'll see composing and decomposing numbers. Those students are drawing models. So we talk about concrete, then to that pictorial, and then abstract. There's our students working over at the Smartboard with our digital tools, working on place value, and that definitely can be more abstract for our students. Also, we have implemented a new resource this year. It's called Eureka Math Squares by Great Minds. Again, our curriculum is the same, our pedagogy is the same, our resource has changed. We felt that the resource provided students with a more friendly layout, more colorful. It incorporated family math activities, and also a wonderful tool in the apply books for our students were the homework helpers. And I have heard from some parents already that they're amazing in supporting their students at home.
Can you go back one second? Can you just click on those
Sure.
math standards for a second? Just show everyone. Is that live there or no?
It is, but Allison will
Allison,
have
would you mind? I just want to show
Yeah.
people. So, if you really want to get down into the curriculum,
to.
without a doubt, you can go to our State Department. We have that link for folks right in the presentation.
Yep.
And they will go into, and you can go into all of the specific nature. I did not want to sit here and go through every standard,
Yeah.
but just talk about approaches.
Actually, if you go to the second part, you can actually click on the grade level you want to see.
So, yeah,
And specifically go to those standards and really go through what they look like. It does give you an example of what that standard really means and what the focus is.
and I see a lot of use of technology when I'm observing classes and in our buildings. There seems to be a real emphasis on this, more so than in the past. Why so much technology?
I think it's really worked for students. Students are engaged in technology, but we do feel we need to create a balance, which we really get in that math workshop model. So while a teacher is working with a small group of students, we might have another small group working on reflex math, which is technology to work on math fluency, whether it be addition and subtraction in our primary grades or multiplication and division in our intermediate grades. We also have Zern, which allows students to kind of watch interactive videos that have to do with the concept that they're learning in class as well.
Danielle,
I just want
thank
to
you.
piggyback on that
You're
also, Dr. Pilteri, because yes, we don't want to sit here going through every single standard. But when we went from more of your traditional math program back in 2017, 2018, it was really more memorization of math skills. We really wanted to jump onto the next generation and do more of a constructivist, a more hands-on approach. And probably for the first year, working with a leader from the state who came down and worked with all of our grades and all of our buildings at the elementary level to really deconstruct all of the standards and look at what it was that we wanted to work on more deeply, as opposed to having just more chapters of math, but really more quality, so that kids could walk away having stronger skills going into the middle school, which Missy will talk about.
Daniel, just a quick question. We noticed when you clicked on the standards, it said 2017. Is that the most updated?
Yes, it is.
List said 6 years
Yes, it
old.
is.
Have there been any updates to that?
No. The ones previous to that were quite some time ago. They did a slow rollout with the next generation standards. I think COVID also kind of slowed that process a bit as well. So right now, like K-5 is done, 6 through 8, we've implemented. This year, we're implementing the changes in algebra. So you're welcome. Okay. Oh, wait, do you want me to go back? No. Okay. So moving on to elementary science, we as well have the link to the standards there. They're even newer than our math standards. Oh, thank you. They are definitely structured differently than our old standards from back in 1996, I think. So it's been a while. They needed a definite refresh. So not only were there changes in elementary science content, I think the biggest change K through 12 has been the shift in the instructional expectations. So that really was a change for all of our teachers. We really needed to find a resource in elementary to support our teachers in giving our students the experience they needed to understand the standards. So we did choose building blocks, which I've shared with you before. We had a slow rollout over the last 2 years. Each grade level does have 3 units. They're very hands-on. Really, the purpose or the shift in the instruction is really having students make sense of the science. So instead of just telling them things, we're having them experience things, explore, observe, predict, do those investigations and then learn more about that science. So I think it's been wonderful walking into the classrooms, seeing the kids actually doing science. I mean, if you look at some of those pictures, we have our kindergarteners really exploring. In the middle, they have something called Best Bugs, BESS, not
I remember
beds.
visiting your office, and you were a little
I
off
did-
kilter one day, and I was like, "What's happening?" You're like, "There's about 1,000 bugs in the corner over there that you
I
needed
had
to
to take
deliver
care
to the
of them
schools."
for a little while.
How do they get to the schools? Do you put them in your car and bring them to the
I
schools?
did.
Oh my gosh!
So yeah, while we were doing the training,
What are
before
the kids doing with
teachers
the
had
bugs?
them.
I see this young lady playing with
I
them. But
know. I have pictures of even the principals during the training. They were great sports, and they had those bugs crawling all over them as well.
what is the reason for that?
Well, they are learning about the different parts of insects and what they're used for, their habitat, what their needs are. These best bugs were very interesting because they lived in wood, and all I really needed to do to take care of them was spray down the wood with some water every few days.
That's a good pet for you.
Yeah. I don't know how happy my
That and
family
a
would be
plant.
if I brought them home, but
So I see these kids over here on the ground. Looks like they're cutting up some calamari over there.
it
Mr.
is
Piccirillo.
a little squid. Yes.
See that?
Our fourth graders are actually doing dissections, which they've never done in the elementary school before. Super excited, hands
squid?
on. Yes,
That's calamari, right?
It is.
What do we do with
I
it
don't know
after
if
the
I'd
kids
eat that,
dissect it?
but
Flour it and deep fry it.
So, we
Go
could bring it to ask Lisa Zednick in lunch. Maybe we could do coordinate some save some money. Always
we could
thinking, right, Meredith?
try. We could try. This does have some yellow, blue, and red dye in it, so they can see the different
Oh, might not
parts.
wanna eat that then.
So I don't know if it's edible, but the kids really
Let's
did
not give the kids
enjoy
any
this.
ideas. Dominic's looking at it like, "Oh, how come I'm not dissecting calamari?"
Okay, moving on here.
Sorry,
That's okay.
I got distracted. I got distracted, not dissected. I got distracted.
But you could just see different examples there. We have, a simulation of a tornado. We've done great PD in the bottom left corner. That's Dr. Emily Kang. She joins us from Adelphi. She's very involved in all the new standards, the new assessments. She's really been an inspiration for all of our teachers. She's very down to earth and just really knows how to connect with them. And has motivated them to really make change in the classroom.
And I see the garden towers in a lot of
Yeah.
Yeah, I
classrooms
just wanted
as well.
to actually share about that because one of our Seacham residents, she was also a part of our curriculum council and SEL committee, Letty Algary. She is the one that comes to our buildings. And right now, currently, I feel like I have about 100 garden towers, but I cannot express enough that whatever building you go in, they're just full of wonderful things that the kids are growing. They're learning about it. Letty comes and does a really nice job of training kids how to utilize it, giving back to the community in terms of donation of some of this. So we're also using them in our family consumer science classes up at the high school, some of the science courses as well. So it's been a really nice connection beyond just what we've purchased and we've invested in for the science standards. Even our self-contained classes are using it for the farm to table courses. So it's really a nice just K-12 existence of more hands-on science for our students.
Absolutely. One of our elementary schools really does an amazing job. Their garden is huge outside, and then they have garden towers inside, and they donate so much. And the kids are really understanding all their hard work is really benefiting the needs of so many other people. So I think it's wonderful, and hopefully we can highlight some of what they've done.
I think Winona, right,
Yes.
is their giving
Winona,
garden.
their
And it's
giving
incredible
garden.
to see
Mhm.
those kids going out there
Yep.
on their hands and knees, picking the most, the ripest tomatoes, and really
Yep.
being thoughtful about. And this food goes to a food pantry, right?
Yes.
And those in need
Island
can,
Harvest.
and our kids are. I mean, again, that cycle, right?
Yeah.
Fantastic.
That's
Fantastic.
amazing.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so I'll keep going. So actually, before we move on to secondary, I'm going to ask Allison Dasso to come over and talk a little bit about some of the activities she did with Forces and Interactions with her third graders.
Hi, thank you so much for having me tonight. As Danielle said, I teach third grade over at Merrimack, so I had an opportunity to work hands-on with our new science program in the last couple of years. We do 3 units. We do forces and interactions. That's our first unit in the first trimester. Then we get into weather and sky, and our final unit is a life science unit where we do plant and animal study. But this is just a little snapshot of our forces and interactions unit from last year. We just started it. We're going to get it rolling soon. But this is from last year. So what the unit entails, it's basically a lot of hands-on activities for the students to engage in, where they will actually learn about balanced and unbalanced forces. They'll create a balance beam themselves. They'll have to use a beam and a fulcrum to create a beam balance. They learn about push and pull of forces. They will learn about gravity as falling objects, and they do all of this through their own labs and investigations where they're dropping objects, they're building ramps and using spring scales to launch cars. They learn about inertia, and so they're going through this discovery process and they're drawing their own conclusions. And then obviously we're concluding with all of our different forces and interactions. We do have a small part of the unit that talks about magnetism and how forces apply to that as well. We were really excited last year at the end of our forces and interactions unit. We had the Long Island Explorium come in, and they took all of the knowledge that they gained during that forces and interaction science unit, and they actually used all of that knowledge to then create their own roller coasters. So these are some snapshots of my class last year where they had to really apply everything they learned in that unit, and they made these awesome roller coasters. And it was a process of trial and error, but they really took everything they learned about applied force and inertia and kinetic energy, and they made really cool roller coasters out of foams and marbles and tape and construction paper. So it was a really great opportunity for them to see everything that they learned. They had to actually apply and put it into action to create the roller coaster. We are actually really excited to do it again this year. We're going to be going to the Long Island Explorium to do a little bit more hands-on there, but they will get an opportunity to build their own roller coasters again. I also have a unique opportunity that I'm a mom of some Sachem students here. So I get to see the home side of it. There is a homeschool connection. So you can send home weekly or monthly, depending on your grade level. There is an opportunity for science at home. So last week, my daughter came home from kindergarten with her first science experiment. She's doing weather and sky. So there is an opportunity for parents to see what you're learning in the class. And we looked at the sky, and she told me everything she was learning. Her awesome teacher, Mrs. Gracia Cayuga. Well, shout out to her. She's doing a great job. But she learned so much. And so we did a little science at home, and then she got to bring it back. So all in all, the Carolina Science Unit's been a really great opportunity for the kids to just get more hands-on. They're not just studying vocabulary terms and taking a quiz. They're really engaging in hands-on activities and then having to draw conclusions and make their own discoveries. So it's been a really great opportunity for the kids. And we're excited to get it going this year. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Okay. So let's move on to secondary math. Again, the link to the standards are there for you. This year, we have revised the algebra standards to be aligned to the new standards because their Regents exam will now align to the new standards. Next year, we'll revise geometry and so forth. One of the greatest things that we can share today is the period and a half of math in grades 6 through 8. Melissa Aronow will talk a little bit more about that in a little while, but that has been amazing to really work on engaging our students in math. I think that's just been a focus of ours when we have PD sessions, when we have discussions with department chairs, when they have department meetings in their buildings. We're really talking about not just learning steps in math, how are we engaging students in the math? We want to hear students say, math is my favorite subject. And I think that we can tell from up here some of the things that they're doing. They're really working together in math competitions. They're celebrating different days like Math to Remember for 9/11, Pi Day. They have tons of fun activities that really engage students in understanding the meaning of pi. Up at the high school in their statistics class, they got to talk about something they were interested in and do research about those statistics and present on that. So like women directors in film was one example up there. They're incorporating more and more technology with the use of the one-to-one Chromebooks. The beginning of the year, they truly concentrate on hands-on and teamwork, collaboration, group work. Once they have that understanding, they'll be more successful working in groups throughout the year. Up at the high school, they had a Sachem graduate come in and speak on data science and AI. So that was exciting for them to see someone who had been in their shoes not that long ago and what they're doing today. We also have a new courses like Financial Essentials, which is a wonderful course for students to gain those practical math skills that they need for the rest of their lives. So we are finding that the students are really enjoying that class. We have our drones class. So now not only do we have drones 1, we also have a second course where they can be certified in flying drones, which is pretty awesome. I think we also have that math competition. I think all 3 middle schools went. All 3 middle schools went, which was super awesome. And Missy will talk a little bit more about that. I think another focus with the chairs over the last 2 years is really incorporating SEL activities into the classroom. So, for example, Samoset had started out their year with numbers that represent themselves. And you can see that up there. They made a whole board about how numbers represent them and thinking about themselves and how they feel at school.
Ms. Marin, I just wanted to point
Yeah.
out, because I think you skipped it over.
I
You know,
did.
you often hear Dr. Pelletieri and I talking about, because we are offering so much more support earlier on, and certainly in the elementary schools, we're seeing more and more students who may not necessarily reach some of those higher order classes like Algebra 2 and beyond, especially if they have an IEP, that we are looking to have incorporated new sections of ICT to support those students if need be in those courses.
And I did skip over one more thing. I apologize. We have been doing NWEA in grades 6 through 8 as well over the last couple of years. We've added grade 9 this year. So grade 9 algebra students are also taking the NWEA. Teachers have been trained. They will get continued training on how to use those reports to really improve their instruction or create instructional goals for their students in the classroom. I knew I'd forget something. Secondary science, again, there are our standards. Secondary science, we've really done a ton of work with Dr. Emily Kang. She has truly helped us make that shift in the classroom. And if you walk around our middle schools and our high schools and just see all the hands-on that's going on in secondary science, you'd truly be impressed. Just like the shift we're making at the elementary level, where we're asking students to do the exploration, do the discovery, ask the questions, create the models, create the experiment that they think that they need to do to find the answer. It's really amazing. There's some examples up there of labs. We have the new science investigations from the state at the middle school level. We have our new science inquiry course in the middle school in 8th grade, that second period of science. They're doing wonderful things. They have forensics units. They have the upscale cycling project. I think the kids are really enjoying the activity-based curriculum that we have created. We also have digital lab books. We've been working on this for a few years now. We're almost there with everything. I know physics is completely done with their digital lab book. We do not print a lab book for physics anymore at all. We're working on getting living environment and earth science to that point. We still have to do some printing, but they've done a great job with that. We have course dashboards for all of our subject areas, especially science. They did an amazing job at making digital links for any teacher, whether it's a new teacher or they're teaching a different course. All of our materials are able to be found in one place for them. As Ms. Hines said before, we have Tower Gardens in all of our secondary buildings as well. They're using it for different courses and also to donate to those in need. And I think I've gotten everything. Did I miss anything?
I don't know if we wanted to invite Ms. Perrin. I see
I
her back there hiding, one of our
I didn't
wonderful secondary middle school science chairs.
She actually shared the corn plant lab over there. That's over at Seneca, and the density lab.
Ms.
Right.
Moran, I'll just mention the transition. I remember science when I was a kid. There was a lot of note taking, right? Teacher, a lot of talking, note taking, maybe a video, in black and white or something. And then maybe the teacher poured a little ammonia in science, right? Stood back and that was
Amazing.
that was the extent of it. To see these kids in their little lab coats, and then all the way through, and the hands-on aspect to it is just so much more engaging. And school is fun, and you're learning at the same time, and that real engagement of doing the things themselves. Every one of these pictures, it's the kids doing something
Yes.
themselves, not the teacher standing in rubber gloves, and glasses.
Yeah.
Melting
Up in the
something.
corner there, that's I think that's biochem, and they're building 3D proteins up there with actual pieces of string and the pool noodles they use to do it. It was definitely definitely cool to watch. Also, we have been doing so much work with Dr. Emily Kang, and she's so involved with the new assessments and the new writing of units. We're involved in a pilot. She asked some of our 6th grade teachers over at Samoset to try out a new unit that she created on plastics. And her focus is also going to be in implementing strategies to support E&L students. So there's kind of 2 things there. We're super excited to start that work. I think we're starting the middle of October. We'll start that unit with her and move forward.
We'll hear from Misty.
Yep. So I'm going to ask Ms. Aronow to come share some of the benefits of the extra period.
Hello. Good evening, members of the board and cabinet. Thank you for giving me I'm okay, right? Should I go lower?
You can
Oh.
look up, Misty. Yeah.
I'm short.
I love it.
Turn mine on. It's a little better than the old one. You don't have to shake it to get it to work.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to come here and speak to you tonight and share how the students are benefiting from the extra period of math. We now have 1.5 periods, and it has been absolutely incredible. Just like you said, hands-on, more time to talk, more time to explore, to speak to each other and not feel rushed by 42 minutes. It is a dream. That wasn't in my thing. I just
You
did that.
ad-libbed that?
I just
Ad-libbed?
added that, yes. But it is my goal tonight to give you an opportunity, to give you an understanding of the positive impact this period and a half has really made in our classrooms. Students have been actively engaged in hands-on projects, utilizing the online resources such as IXL, Desmos, Delta Math, Edpuzzle, and there are many, many more. The IXL aligns to the NWEA benchmarking. The IXL provides individualized practice. They're called skill sets that the students will be getting their own individual skill set, which will help them work on exactly where they need to be. One student showed, I was looking at one student's skill set, and they were literally working on a geometry algebra 2. And they have that opportunity to do that. And it goes on in the other direction as well. Teachers now also have the additional time for students to collaborate and learn from each other while utilizing the technology and the communication skills, which does result into that deeper understanding, the level of understanding. Before the period and a half, we felt very rushed as teachers, and the students felt rushed too. You have 42 minutes, they come in, you just get through your lesson, and now it's practice and get out. You really had to watch the clock. Having this time, it's incredible. The kids will do a problem, speak to each other, and then they have a math fight, which is amazing.
Yeah, you said that to me today. Made
I
me a little
love it.
nervous. Math
I
fights.
love
but,
it.
describe
and
that for me, please. What's
so
a
you
math
just
fight?
watch and listen to the students fight over a math problem, and they justify why they think they're right. And I'm always like, I give them time, and I said, "You want me to solve it?" They're like, "No." They want to keep going, and they have the time to justify and discuss it. And sometimes they both could be right, and we really have really deep discussions about the math. It's not rushed, and the math fights are good. They used to last like this much time, and now I can let them go a little bit. Also, with Sachem having the one-to-one devices, the online resources and platforms are more accessible. All of these avenues of learning require the students to apply the skills and knowledge. Elementary and the middle school is a critical time, as we all know, to build foundational skills. And this supports the support with the one-to-one devices and everything that we have at our fingertips really, really makes a huge difference. So we're thankful for that. What we were talking about on the other slide is the Brookhaven has a math competition that we go to every year, and it's the 3 middle schools. So we take a bus, we have lunch, we compete. They do all these activities, hands-on activities with the computers, every kind of activity, and they really do enjoy it. To see Sachem, and Sachem's a big district, right? So to see the 3 middle schools connect over math, we are Sachem. It really feels great that day that we are Sachem and we go there as a group. And I love that feeling because you don't always get that with the 3 middle schools. You get it within your building. So it's something I look forward to. We are grateful that there are a variety of courses offered for our middle school students. This format and having the variety of courses the format provides an avenue for every type of learner. Students can learn at the appropriate level and pace while excelling in math. The foundation created by offering this is priceless, especially since math is a spiraling curriculum. And it really does hold true because every student's different. Not everybody's a circle. So offering all of these courses really helps target where the students are and where they should at their learning level. So we appreciate that. So on behalf of the math department, we would like to thank all of you for approving and supporting this additional math period. It has been incredible. I want to say a godsend because it really is. Our meetings, when we have our chair, when I have the chair meetings and we have the department meetings, they rave about it. They're feeling different. They feel effective. Not that we weren't effective before, but much more effective. And we look forward to seeing the continued benefits that prepare our students for college, career, and of course, life.
Thank you so much, Ms. I like what you said. I'm writing that down. Not everyone is a circle. I never heard that one before. Mr. Bauman, you like that one? I think that's right. Think about that. Not everyone is a circle. I like that. And I appreciate the fact that you, as a department, thank the board and everyone for this. I think the other department should come and thank us for things too, Mrs. Hunt. Let's arrange that, please. Math is winning right now. Thank you, Mrs. Aronow. Science. I think we're going to have a science experiment or something, right? We're going to do something with drones.
Shannon teaches math.
Oh, it's math.
Yes, our Python program is in.
Maria, if you could just come up to the microphone so people at home can hear.
Tell them a little bit about it first. Sure. And then we can do.
Hello. So last year we were able to add this really, really cool computer science course called Python Programming with Drone Applications. So what the students do is they get to collaborate and work on hands-on projects where they're learning the Python programming language, and they're doing so as they are completing challenges and projects where they have to code these little drones, which you will see in a second, to accomplish different things. It is so much fun. This year, we actually got to have the opportunity to add the second half of this course, which is called Python Programming 2. Unfortunately, we don't have use the drones in that class because it's more focusing on getting an in-depth understanding of the Python programming language. But at the end of that course, students have the opportunity to earn an IT specialist certification in the Python programming language. So it is an amazing opportunity for anyone who is interested in computer science or going into some sort of programming or software related career in the future. So what I'm going to do, I brought one of my drones and I created a short little demonstration that kind of shows some of the different things that the drones can do and what the students program them to do. It's a lot of fun.
Should we get under the tables? Is it safe?
No, you're safe. It's going to stay on the mat.
Okay.
So you're
It's not going to mess up my hair, right?
No, don't you worry. You're far enough away.
Can this little guy push a button or something like that to make the drone fly? We have an audience member here. It's getting closer and closer, I see, to the drones.
That's
All right.
Let's not stress the child out.
All right.
Yes.
So if we give it a second, it should connect.
Uh-oh. So did you program something into it to make it do directional movements and whatnot?
Yeah,
Because I don't
so
see
right now
you
it's gonna make it
steering
now-
it in any way.
We're going to make an equilateral triangle using a loop function. So I only coded it to move and rotate one time, and it repeats it.
You don't have a means by which to stop it right now. You see what it's doing there? Did you tell it to do that?
I did.
Okay.
So this is basically something that I have programmed ahead of time, and then I just hit the run program button, and it does all of this.
What does the grid on the floor have to do with this?
Sure, I can. It's about to land, so I'm just gonna wait.
You
for
got to
it to land.
concentrate. Are you doing it with your mind, or you're?
This is supposed to be serious, Dr. Pillsbury.
Saw in the pictures your room has tape all over the floors.
Last year it did, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Mr. Larson is helping me get some mats so that we don't have to keep it down all the time.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, that's fantastic. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
I can't thank everybody enough. You know, when I think about when the team really started working on this in 2017 and where we are now, to have a vision as a district is one thing, but to really just thank all of these wonderful folks here, obviously Ms. Moran, our chairs, the staff. As you said, Dr. Pillsbury, it's amazing to see a district as large as us to go from, you know, that old school mentality of learning math and memorizing and doing, you know, workbook pages to really hands-on approaches that you see just excitement and engaging attitudes with all of our students. So thank you all so much. And thank you so much for coming out tonight. We really appreciate it.
I have, if we could just hang tight, I have some board members that have questions. So I'm going to come to Alex first.
I have two quick questions. Number one is first of all, thank you guys. Thank you, everybody. Are these types of experience, are they evenly across the building? So the middle schoolers are all seeing this similar type of things. The high school kids are all seeing. So if a parent's watching tonight, they could say that this is taking place in their child's buildings.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely.
Sure.
K through 12.
Terrific.
I feel that. With, you know, everyone works on the same curriculum, receives the same program resources. We really have worked as a team in math and science when developing the resources that we have.
I would say that up in high school, as kids get older and they start choosing more of their own pathway of what they're liking, that's where you would see a difference. So maybe
Okay.
not everyone's taking the Python,
Right.
but from K all the way up to, I would say 10th, everyone has the same exact experience until
But it
choice
is
starts.
available in both buildings.
Absolutely,
Okay.
everywhere.
Yes.
All right. And then my second question is about learning loss.
Mhm.
How are we gauging? Are we finally closing that gap? How do we measure that if we're finally past that and we can move on?
I think that we're in different places all over. You know, just like students learn at different paces on a normal year.
Yeah.
But the NWA has been a huge asset for us because we can really sit down at a building level, at a district level, at a classroom level, in a grade level in a building, and look at our students. Where are their strengths? Where are their weaknesses? Are we finding that this weakness is widespread? Is it something that we can improve as a grade level, as a district, to support our students? I think that we're finding our students, especially in math, at the early levels, we're seeing an improvement in their foundational skills, which is going to help them in intermediate and in middle school and in high school and so forth. I think, yes, we are closing the gap. I think that it's not going to be closed everywhere at once.
I would just piggyback that to just put like a procedure around it, to not say like some classes are looking at it, some classes are not. You've often heard us talk about our data team meetings. And so we hold them at the district level 3 times a year, and in between buildings hold their own with their teams. And we take a look at every single student, all of their benchmark levels with the NWA and anything else that we have on top of that to speak about any improvements that we need to make. And I know you've heard, Dr. Pelletieri say it, to sit down and to hear our principals and our teachers talking about students down to the granular level of every single name, and they know their ELA and math scores. That's something to be proud of, and not just a small school, never mind a district our size. So we are making marketed improvements, but obviously each building is going to be a little bit different. But you're always more than welcome to see our results as we go through, which we do share periodically. But that is the kind of hands-on approach that we're taking to making sure all kids move forward.
Terrific. Thank you guys again.
Meredith?
I just wanted to compliment you guys because learning didn't look anything like that when I was in school. And I just appreciate it because I am a hands-on learner, and I know that there are so many kids out there, especially, every year their attention span gets less and less and less. So having these kids all engaged like this is amazing. It's like when my kids were little and I used to sneak them vegetables. You guys are sneaking them information. You're doing a great job. So thank you.
Sabrina?
How often are the kids in elementary school having science class?
It depends how they've structured it. Sometimes they will alternate it with social studies, or they do every other day, or they do a full science unit, then a full social studies unit. It depends how they do it, but they will be doing all 3 units in every grade level throughout the year.
So speaking about support, going off what Alex said, how is AIS run to support the kids who are struggling in math and reading? How is that handled in elementary and middle school?
So, now let you piggyback, but
Okay.
we actually have a rubric that we use all of the different benchmark data that we have, which includes NWA, that's shared, like I said, at our data team meetings in June. We go off of those names and numbers to just ensure that we have proper support at each building level. Those are flexible depending on the needs of the students. Come back when we come back to the fall, we do another benchmarking to make sure that we haven't missed anybody, or for anybody that's new, certainly for kindergarten. Not that we would start necessarily intervention services off the bat, but just to look at those screeners when they first come in, just to make sure we have not captured somebody. And then again, through the data team meetings, their informal meetings with their own building support teams, that's how we monitor and make sure that students are progressing. Some students, we can move them out of AIS, we monitor them in their classrooms. But remember, AIS is a tier 2 intervention. So all of our teachers, which they can tell you here, we also expect small group instruction in both math and in literacy. So you hear me talk about guided reading. Students are to be met with, especially any that are have any weaknesses 4 to 5 times a week, on top of also getting AIS support services.
And that's in middle school too. They're getting that.
So in middle school, we actually have that period and a half now of ELA, which Ms. O'Doherty and her team will be coming next to really talk about that. And again, we use the NWA scores. All of our teachers actually are continuing with literacy training around small group instruction. We've purchased a plethora of level text for students so that during their independent book choice times or small group instruction in that period and a half, teachers are working with those students. And you say, well, that's pretty big numbers. But we are looking to make sure that the students who truly need services as they move into middle school is getting it in either that period and a half through their English course. We also have Read 180 for any students who need it beyond and above that. Wilson tends to be more of our special education students who are still having great difficulty with more of the phonics programming. And we even have now the AIS period for our 9th graders who were still moving into the high school that we're not quite reading on grade level as well. So those high school English teachers are currently being trained in literacy practices, NWA, and we're also in the middle of purchasing text levels for them that are more on independent choice books that they would have interest in reading. So maybe lower level, but high interest so that it's not embarrassing, what have you.
So sixth and 7th grade math is in that half period. They're not being pulled out, especially for AI services.
So we have a push-in model where we have some of our, all of our 6th grade, we've never had a pull-out. We've always had like that period and a half, as part of our AIS program. And so again, our AIS program is that it's done in the classroom. In the middle school, we do that additionally during that period and a half. So if you don't need additional support, you may be doing more of like an independent book choice, or you might be doing, a book circle. But if you do need something beyond that, we have Read 180, et cetera, for those students who need beyond even a tier 2.
And then they're still doing the speech push-ins and all that during that half period.
Not
also.
necessarily. Speech
No.
is completely different. I think, Mr. Neidhart, and I know he's going to be coming back to also talk a little bit more about special education updates. When we talk about a push-in model, we've discussed it in the past. At the secondary level, you're really focusing more on the comprehension skills. Anyone who needs articulation, those are students that probably will always need it, even upon graduation. So we're talking very small numbers. So what we're trying to do is to help students generalize what they're being taught in their speech services, which aligns really closely to reading instruction, English instruction, so that they can also, practice that. But again, we don't do that with just a red painted brush. That's thoughtful conversation that Mr. Neidhart and his team is having at the CSE level and with the speech teachers to ensure that might this be a student who's a candidate for a push-in group instead. But it's not pulling a student to the back and saying, okay, now we're going to do speech services. Our speech teachers actually just went through almost like an ICT co-teaching sort of model so that they knew their role, the teacher understood, they could ask questions together, and we'll continue that into Superintendent's Conference Day and throughout the school year.
And then the last question I have, with an incoming population of ENL students, how are they being supported through all of this? I mean, we're speaking about math and science specifically, but I know that, training is necessary. Are they getting any support or pullouts, because depending if they're entering or if they're...
So the students or the staff?
Both.
Okay, so let's start with the students, right? So students, as a school district, we're mandated to ensure that their proficiency level minutes are implemented for them. And so depending on your proficiency level, there are mandates for a certain amount of pullouts as opposed to also at least one push-in. So at every single building, and I know Dr. Pelletieri maybe spoke about this and I shared it in our weekly, I've taken over the scheduling and just making sure that we have enough staff, all the minutes are being met at all the buildings, and not just to meet the minutes, but to make sure we also have room for any growth, in case we have more students throughout the year. So all of those minutes, all students are being served above and beyond what they need, right? So that could look like a pullout for their English or a pullout for their math, depending on their proficiency level, but then there might be a push in like their science class, let's say, for example. And so that changes as each year goes by and they take the NICESLAT assessment, and it lets you know if that child is moving up, right? So their program might change. They're in all of the AIS supports, any of the programs that we have, ENL students, just like our special education students, our general education students, all of our programs are open to any one of our students. If we have, for example, a student who comes into the middle school who appears to be reading like on a kindergarten or first grade reading level in their home language, we treat it as such, but with maturity and resources that match the grade level of that child. And we hook them up with supports in the building, or even if we have to look outside to make sure that those students are able to progress at their level too, but they are entitled to be in the classes that they should be for their grade level. It gets a little tricky in the high school because sometimes it is heartbreaking, for an ENL student who's never been to this country to sit in a classroom that could be a little challenging for them. But our ENL department is wonderful. As you've heard, we've purchased so much instructional software that helps the student to be able to translate, helps the teacher to be able to still teach, but they have that ability to have Google Translate on so that while they're speaking, it translates into the language for that student. We're actually going for the first time to North on Friday. I'll be there myself with our team. We're doing period by period sort of, just looking at general strategies to start when you are new to teaching students who are, in fact, ENL. This is the last school that we've dehubbed where all of our ENL students will go to their home building. And so we did that for all of the schools last year on top of more intimate billing PD, and we'll be doing that with North, and we'll continue on, each year. I know I'm talking a little fast, but it's kind of a broader subject that we'd be very happy. I know the department, I know we would love to share the professional development, all the resources we have for ENL, because it is a plethora. And I have to say, I'm really proud of all the work that we've put into. I can't thank you all enough. We have tripled our staff in that department. And I can honestly say for a school this large, are we ever going to move to a translator in every room? That's not really what the guidelines are anyway. The whole purpose of the program is to help students to kind of gradual release in learning English and beyond. But you've heard Ms. Trombetta and I with Dr. Miller when he spoke. We've now crafted an ENL SIFE program at nighttime, so that students who are definitely at an older age where we know for them it's more about vocational life skills, having that general understanding of math skills, English skills, resume writing, going on in interviews, while also having those ENL supports to learn English. That's something that we're building at nighttime. So as students come in, we get an idea of what their needs are. We hear from our staff what their need is around professional development. It's everyday job of saying, how can we do this better? And I have to say the SETA has been very supportive in partnership together with that, because they're the boots on the ground, and we're kind of just trying to manage it everywhere, but we want to manage it successfully so that everybody feels like they have exactly what they need in the classrooms.
Okay, any other questions? Yep.
Yep. So I just want to say thank you. This was fantastic. I know the board had asked for something like this, and we thought it was very important to hear directly from you folks in the building. So I think, thank you for coming out tonight. And I think not only for us, but for the community members, just the level of transparency, so they see what's going on in the class. So this was great. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
No, I appreciate the invitation, and we really were excited to, kick it off today. Thank you so much, Ms. Rand, everybody else.
Any other questions from the board? I have a couple questions. I know Dr. Pelletier's ready to jump in there, but I'm going to just for clarification for AIS. Okay, AIS services is only provided as a push-in at this particular point. In other words, in years past, students that were identified at neither of those AIS services were pulled out in small group settings. Are we offering that at all, or is it everything pushing now?
No. I was saying before, and again, we'd be happy to present even on that as well, so you can see the models of tiered intervention. Depending on the need of the student, tier 1 is in the classroom, and that could be just as simple as having guided reading 3 times a week. That's like our general requirement, that all students be met with at least 3 times a week in small group instruction on their guided reading level. And as you move into middle school, because we have that period and a half every day, it would be the same thing, right? But if a child is not showing that they're progressing, that next level, which would then be considered AIS, might be, well, now let's increase it to 5 times a week. And then we're going to monitor that. And then eventually it could be, well, we might have a pullout, but maybe it's easier for the reading teacher to come in, or the other support staff to come in, because it doesn't necessarily have to be a reading teacher, but another teacher who's going to come in and do even more intervention. So it really depends on what the child needs, but we have varied levels of intervention and different programs based on the need of the student.
But everything is pushed in, it seems like.
No, it's not always pushed in.
I've
It
seen
can
it
also
pulled
be
out
pulled out as well.
Yeah.
So when a push-in happens on an AAS, let's say math, for example, a math teacher will push in to work with identified students?
A math AIS
Teacher.
yes.
So then
Because like on the elementary level, those are elementary certified teachers, and they are our math AIS interventionists.
But they're not doing the lesson themselves, right? They're supporting the
No.
kids that are
What
identified?
happens is the classroom teacher does the mini lesson or the overall lesson, and at the appointed time when that teacher is being scheduled to push in, the classroom teacher would be doing their own groups or their own, facilitation of whatever work is going on or review with the other students. And then that math intervention specialist would be meeting with the students that he or she needs to. So it's happening at the same time. It's during like the independent practice or group work time that we've assigned in the schedule for that teacher and that
So
classroom.
the AIS certified teacher would actually be working just with that
Correct.
group that's identified in the
Correct.
same room.
Yep. And I have to tell you, our principals have been raving about that flexibility of being able to have both pull out and push in. And we've added a considerable amount of intervention resources for both math and reading. That in itself could be a presentation where we can have principals come, share their background, some of our PAs are even a part of that work. We're just always looking for ways to serve students where they're not always just being pulled out, because that is interruptive to their day, but that doesn't mean that should be the sole way of only pushing into. And I know sometimes, right, when things change, rumors can spread around and go around, but we are committed to still being flexible and offering various types of supports for intervention.
So you mentioned the principals are really open to that and raving.
They
about
actually
that.
help us plan.
Are staff members feel the same way? There are teachers that are actually in the classrooms feel that same way, that it's the best practice, the most.
I think in each building, depending on what the experience is. Like I know at Chippewa, for example, they really adore the support that when they get that push in, and it's not every day, it might be every other day, because then that person who's our math interventionist might need to have some pull-ups where they can't go into classrooms. So it really depends on the schedule. But we've heard nothing but tremendous feedback, quite frankly, about how we've had grown our AAS and our interventions.
Okay. So, I guess the question would be for the teachers that presented tonight, and Danielle, thank you for coming out. You guys did a fantastic job, and it's I know engaging the kids in non-traditional settings where you have them up, moving around, doing things. I spent the last 32 years of my life doing that. We do less classroom time and more hands-on production, and as a result, our retention level and our success rate is through the roof. That's what kids want. That whole traditional setting of, all right, PowerPoint presentation, nobody open their binders, that's old, and it doesn't really not as effective anymore as maybe it used to be. So kids want to be engaged. I applaud you for that, and I thank you for coming out and presenting tonight. But I'm going to ask the golden question that I've asked many, many times, and I know this is what gets Michelle a little nervous when I ask this question. Actually, this might be the first time I ask this question in front of Michelle. But moving forward, in order to continue to move your program forward, what is we're going to go into a budget cycle in February, where we're going to be recommendations to be made to the board. Oh, she's getting nervous already. All right, what would your wish list be as far as how could this board support you further to take it to the next level and continue to provide the great things that you're doing in your classrooms? Is there anything specific, I guess, for the staff, the department chairs, and for the teachers that you see? This is your chance. This is the early Christmas list.
Don't look to your left. Stop looking to your left.
Don't look that way. They're not looking at you. Come up. Yeah, come on up.
Allie has a request. Okay. I'm also the STEAM PA at Merrimack, so I work on behalf of Danielle in the building to meet any of the science or math needs. And one of the requests that I get the most from other teachers are, can we get more manipulatives?
I'm sorry, more what?
Manipulatives.
Okay.
Those are the resources that they use to solve problems.
So the new great part of the new Great Minds program, the Eureka Math Squared, is that many of the lessons have this investigation piece. It's kind of like an exploratory portion of the lesson right at the beginning, where you're giving the children a problem and maybe handing them some manipulatives and then letting them explore with the concept to draw their own conclusions before you go into your targeted lesson for the day. And a lot of those lessons now with our new program do have some manipulatives that we don't currently have based on our previous programs. So it's upon the teachers to find either a digital version or purchase something, or maybe come up with an alternative to that required manipulative. Most teachers are happy to do that, but I know sometimes some of the things that we're looking for we don't have. So they would love.
Yeah.
Or it's something that as a teacher you have to go purchase. So I know that if we had more of those things in the classroom, because learning is becoming more hands-on, the kids love that investigation piece. I know I've had a lot of great response with it in my classroom this year. They love going off, trying it maybe in a small group, maybe with a partner, and then we come together to kind of go over what they learned. But it's a lot of providing our own, or if we don't have that particular manipulative, like kind of substituting. So I think some of the teachers
And they exist. It's just a matter of purchasing
we
to
just don't
match
have
it.
that. Yeah.
We did make a large purchase of manipulatives several years ago.
I was just going to say, Michelle's going to be very pleased. We just purchased 5 years worth of manipulatives because we purchased the vouchers through the grants before they closed for science. So that frees up more money for, Allison's talking more about those random things that you shouldn't have to go out and buy. And Catherine, our purchasing agent, has been really great about taking all of those suggestions that Danielle gives her to make our own miscellaneous list of manipulatives. So that would be great if we can build that
we're
in.
creating them versus
Oh, yeah.
purchasing them.
Yeah.
Oh,
So,
and they're amazing. Anytime we come, with us as a teacher, you say hey, what can we do to help with this piece? Danielle's always really great with coming up with ideas, or, teachers work collectively. The STEAM PAs work with each other. We'll sometimes send things back and forth to buildings, or we make something, we'll share it with another building. So collectively, we're all working together. But there are some, sometimes.
So that's something I guess we could work on.
Where am I going to get that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's something that's brought to me as the PA sometimes, about can we maybe get some more.
And that would be at the top of the wish list to help improve the
I think so. If you
achievement
kind
curve.
of polled the masses.
Okay.
In elementary.
Michelle, you got that? You okay? You still breathing over there? Okay. Math? Any
Well, Well, we love our workbooks. We love the workbooks. Thank you for always supplying us with the workbooks because it really is individualized. No, we love them. We beg for them and we get them. I will say
You don't have to beg. We buy them every year.
everything that we pretty much asked for, we got. And I'm very grateful. We wanted that period and a half forever. We got it. And I am thankful every single day. So don't take it away. Because I will cry because it really did make a difference. Like the teachers are like, we're effective now. Like we have the time to let the kids explore. And it's just amazing. I don't want to say I'm old, but being a little older, the thing that always comes up, and I hate to say it, but it's class size. You know, there's not much we could do about it. We try, especially in the middle school, because you're balancing so many different, you know, technology, and it's not easy. But when you just, it's just good to be mindful on the collab classes, the ENL, because those are the classes that really it helps when it's a lower class size. And I know that you can, you know, it's another section and things like that. It's everyone requested, every school district on Long Island, I'm sure is going to say the same thing. And we try, and I know you guys do, but that's the one thing I always want to keep in mind and be mindful of. And I'm not saying we're not, but it's something that we should always be mindful of because those are the classes that you really don't want to have a high number in.
Well, I will say kudos to Ms. Trombetta because on top of that, we also try and keep like our ICT teams together, our ENL teams together. So when she's doing staffing for us with our principals, we put a lot of professional development monies into making sure that our staff feels equipped and successful and ready to teach those students. So when you're breaking up those teaching marriages haphazardly, it can really wreak havoc because then it's like you're starting fresh. So, want to thank her, our principals, because we really have asked over the years to please try and keep teachers in their grade level that they've been having professional, unless they requested, of course, and to also try and keep all of those inclusion and ENL marriages together so that they can keep growing in their craft.
Yeah, and there's a lot of support with that too.
Yeah.
So really, and it's not a dig. It's like it's just something that we're always mindful of. And I'm not saying it's bad. It's just something that we should always be mindful of, and we always are. And thank you, Patty, for that.
Ms. Murphy, anything?
Sure. It's not a big thing, but I would love to see at the high school level more alternative seating options. I think it actually ties very well in with your the movement and project you've been working on with differentiation.
Yeah.
This is something that at least in the math department we've spoken a lot about. I myself have never been comfortable in a desk, in one of those student desks. And I've been very fortunate. Mr. Larson had offered some of the high top tables that were in the cafeteria that they moved out for teachers. So I have 2 high top tables in my room. I actually have some floor pillows because some kids just are comfortable sitting on the floor while they're working, right? But I know that other teachers have expressed that we would love to see some standing desk options for kids that maybe just can't sit, right? They want to stand. So different options that students could find a comfortable position and location in which they feel like they could best focus would, I think, be helpful.
Is that something, on this question, I guess, for administration, is that something we could pilot to see
We
how
actually
effective-
purchased a couple of those classrooms prior to the pandemic. And then, forgive me, I assume because of the pandemic that those resources went elsewhere. But we were just talking about the fact that we purchased flexible seating and furniture arrangements in our libraries, except for Waverly, and just updating Samoset a little bit. So Michelle is going to build that in. So I think we could probably start to also build in next year and the years after more flexible seating. But I have to say, and thank you so much for saying it, just our conversation around differentiation, we talked about just like the fact that we don't have rows in the classroom anymore. Like that's just so industrial revolution times.
I still have rows.
Okay. Well, I
But I'm
don't
old.
want to change. I don't want to change it. But we talk about all these wonderful things, and then you go into classrooms and you see such wonderful things, but then we're still in rows, right? So sometimes we just don't think about that because we've just been doing it for a while. So while we're waiting for that furniture, we've been talking about, just like at the elementary school, making more groups, moving around the desks, letting kids sit wherever they need to sit, just to feel more comfortable, because there's nothing like being engaged and then sitting in a desk in a row where you can't really talk with your partners.
I, Mr. Scavo?
Yeah, yes.
Yes.
I have to tell you, I was when she first came up to the microphone, I thought she was going to ask for a Raptor drone. So, so alternative seating is probably a lot more doable, right?
Okay.
Right, Michelle? I don't think we could budget a Raptor drone for her.
Meredith?
I was just wondering if some of those manipulatives that you're talking about, if maybe our older kids would be able to make them in their shop classes and in their, like, they have 3D printer things and different clubs, and then we're utilizing our,
That's a great idea.
you know, it's budget friendly and you're showcasing your students.
I have to say on that note, our tech classes helped Miss Moran build all of our garden beds that we have at the elementary school and then throughout the rest of the schools. And this year, Michelle and Ryan, thank you so much, helped us to redo over at East Courtyard. I'm sure you guys saw those pictures where our students are also doing a lot of gardening, and we purchased some aluminum ones. But we are really trying to use our students and their expertise however they can, and it's been pretty cool. So I love that suggestion.
So then I'm going to piggyback and ask for us to have a presentation on that, please. Showcasing those students, bringing them in, and that way everybody can see what they do.
Your question, Sabrina?
Ms. Arno, can I ask you a question? Because it was a little debate. We had a discussion last year with the extra period. Do you find it more beneficial where they're back to back or when there's a break between them?
It's interesting because sometimes they're not back to back and sometimes they are because it worked out with the scheduling. Last year, they were all back to back, and I love it. I like it because it's more class time. You don't have to take out to, like, all right, now get your calculator, get out your books. We're doing a do now. Let's remember where we were. They literally take a break, go the whole way, come back, and we're back in business. But then you have teachers that like that they have a break and there's something in between a lunch and then they come back. So it really is a personal preference. I like back to back, but again, I know teachers that like it the other way. I'm just happy to have that extra period, and I'm really glad. I think I've said it 100 times.
Don't panic.
Don't take it back.
Missy's going to make T-shirts for everyone in the math
Don't take
department.
it back. No, but I do like it that way because I felt like I had more instructional time. But when you have students that struggle with math, sometimes that break is good for them. It really depends on the teacher and the students in the class. But regardless, the extra time is just amazing. Thank you.
Dr. Pell, you wanted, you were waiting patiently.
Well, I want to get a word in here. So it's like David Letterman, right? But Danielle, I want to thank the team that came tonight. And Danielle Moran, we're lucky to have you. Thank you very much for the work that you do with our math and our science folks. You wear both those hats. You have bugs in your office and you have math manipulatives in your office, and you get it done. So thank you so much. And Ms. Hines, this is a reflection of your work as well. So thank you very much for folks that came out tonight. Thank you. That was a great suggestion. You know, when we say future discussion items, I always wince a little bit and say, what is going to come out next? And that one, it gives us an opportunity to really show off. So thank you. And Ms. Hines, we may even want to do, like, instead of social studies and ELA together, maybe one night is social studies and then another night ELA. Just break it up a
I
little
mean,
bit
as
so
you
it's
see,
not as...
we could probably, if Missy could have probably talked for another hour about the extra period. But no, seriously, we have so much going on that it might be nice. And then I want to double check and make sure, like, did we have ENL in there? And I just want to
Yeah,
make
we
sure
had
have,
one
like, a
for
follow-up with
specials
special
and
ed.
different, yeah.
Yeah, so I just want to make sure.
Make sure we have enough dates because we're going to get into budget season and then everything kind of goes aside, steps aside. Thank you very much. That concludes my long superintendent's report.
There's usually a section here that, I guess, because it's the first meeting we have our student board members, is an update from our student board members as to what's going on in school. It's not on the agenda, but we're going to add it in there. Just, you know, if you want to provide, I don't want to put you on a spot. You know, I know we didn't talk about this earlier, but if you certainly want to provide the board with an update as to what's going on the first couple of weeks of school and some of the great things that are happening from a student perspective.
I guess we'll just get into what's happened in the last couple of weeks. We had obviously our homecoming dance at North last Friday, and for the last couple of weeks, me as well as the other student government members have been working on planning it, and we sold tickets for about a week. Yeah, we'll say about a week. and we raised about $30,000. We sold close to 800 tickets, and that doesn't even account for the entire varsity football team getting in for free. So there was a big turnout, and we only stayed an hour, maybe a little more than an hour. But I think it was a big success, and I think considering the rain on Saturday, I think we had a pretty big turnout, and I think just from the first couple weeks, I think there's a bigger uptick in like school spirit. I feel like people want to be in school more. At least I do. I don't know if it's just me being a senior right now, but like I've enjoyed being in school more than I have in a really long time, and I think we got a good thing going on right now. Oh, also we have our the next thing up we have is the 30 Dozen. I'm not running that, but it's two other people that aren't in student government, but that's like our next big thing coming up.
And Bill, I know your carnival kind of got rained out that you normally have. Is that
Oh.
going to be rescheduled?
So we kind of had a plan to do it for this Friday because we were going to have Ward Melville, and that's probably like one of the bigger games of the regular season. I think she can vouch for that. She's the football mom here. But it looks like it's probably going to rain again on Friday. So actually, along with that, we had to reschedule our senior sunrise from this Friday to next Friday. So we probably won't have that whole carnival thing this time. I honestly wouldn't know when else it would be, but we'll see.
Something we could look into. Dominic?
So actually coming up next week, we have our pep rally October 6th. So that's supposed to be a very hyped up thing. I've tried to reform it from last year. Instead of the kids just sitting there, it's supposed to be more inclusive, a lot of more activities. One of our big things is we're actually having the soccer teams do a penalty shootout against each other. So that's one of the things that people are hoping to actually see, more competitiveness between the sports teams. And then our homecoming dance, we actually worked with the company North uses for decorations. So that's supposed to be big. We got a big catering company. So we got a good price on them.
So you're going to be providing food? at your
Yes,
dance?
it's going to be Italian food, place called Three Bambinos in Smithtown.
Oh, don't tell Dr. Pelletieri that.
Where exactly is this event and what time? I'm going to be there on the 7th for the game. You're going to have it at the game? No? Oh.
But the game is supposed to be one of our biggest events. I've had a lot of people. Originally, we had it Sachem themed. A lot of people were coming up to me like, let's do USA, let's do American flags. So we'll probably have a huge, pretty big student turnout, a lot of flags in the crowd. So
Great. Sounds wonderful.
And then
Question.
Yeah, sure.
I heard a rumor, Dominic, about possibility of fireworks. Where are you on that?
So that was one of the big things I was trying to bring for the dance. We were going to hopefully go out on the Capitol steps, watch them get shot off. Fortunately, it was not in the budget. There was a miscommunication between me and the company. It was little out of the budget. So I'm keeping in contact with them, hopefully for future events, future things. We'll have them there. We have our contract pretty much, like if we wanted, we can just go back to them. And then just one more thing about the beginning of last week, we actually posted a website. So now we have any Sachem East merch anybody would like to purchase is up there. You could just go order it, either get it shipped to your house or shipped to the school and pick it up.
Great. Thank you guys for the update.
I'm going to jump on that for 1 second, President Scavo. I know North, you guys scanned in using your IDs, right? All 800 kids scanned in and
Yeah.
it worked.
Yeah,
Right?
I almost lost my ID for
Oh.
Tuesday, but hey, I had it. But yeah, I think it worked out pretty well because it's like we had the entire spreadsheet shared with everyone that sold the tickets.
Yeah.
And I guess it connected to the scan-in thing, and you paid, your name was there, your ID was there, came up green for you.
Yep. It's just another layer, of security on a Friday night for our kids. We want to make sure that who's supposed to be there is there. And it was amazing that they were able to get that worked out. They just started with scholarship, yet they were able to work out for 800 kids to enter that party. Thank you, Dylan.
Thank you, guys. Okay, brings us to item C, approval of minutes. I need a motion to approve the minutes from December 13th, December 18th. Meredith Volpe, second. Sabrina Pikowitz. Any questions or discussions? All in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Allison, any visitors tonight? Okay. Item 4, we have a consent agenda, A through D. I need a motion, please. All right. Matt Bauman, second by Micah Cernia. All right. Questions or discussions on these items? All in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. And 5 is personnel. Okay, it's consent agenda A through L. I need a motion, please. Alex, second by Sabrina. Questions or discussions? All in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Brings us to page 9.
Mr. Scavo, if we could just take a moment to recognize one of our teachers at Seneca, special educator Jennifer Schultz, who is going to be retiring at the end of October. She's been with us not only as an educator and a teacher within the Sachem family, but also as a resident in excess of 35 plus years. And she's looking forward to taking some time with her family, and we wish her all the very best.
Is Ms. Schultz here? She's not here?
She's
tonight? Okay. Congratulations. Yeah. All right, item 6 is personnel. Okay, we have a consent agenda A through H. Any motion, please? Mike Cernia, second. Okay, Alex Picarillo. Questions or discussions? All in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Brings us to page 12. Item 7, personnel agenda items for administration. We have consent agenda A and B. Need a motion, please? Okay, Sabrina, second. Mike Cernia. Questions or discussions on the items? All in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Item 8 is contracts. We have a consent agenda A through F. Any motion, please? Matt Bauman, second by Vinnie Reynolds. Questions or discussions?
Just a
Mr.
quick
Reynolds?
question, Rob. Yeah, C, JLL Valuation Advisory Services. Is that, Michelle, I don't know if that's for you. Are we getting an appraisal on Gate Lot, if that's what I read?
Yes.
When was the
Yes.
last time we had an appraisal on that? It's been a while, or?
I don't know that we ever had an
don't recall
appraisal.
it
on
happening.
We never
Gate
had
Lot.
one? Okay.
Yeah.
So I know we have some plans hopefully for that building. So is that's really what's driving this, to figure out what we've got there?
Yes.
Okay.
There has been some
Interest.
inquiries made
Yeah.
in regards to that space, so that's why we need to do this.
Okay. Yep. Thank you.
Item F, Orange County Transit. Oh, actually, we're still in the discussion section. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, did you have a question? No. Yeah, so just a quick question on that item. I mean, the cost associated with that, is there going to be any type of way of recovering some of that money that we have to now spend to cover some of those routes?
Well, we won't be paying, those routes obviously to We Transport, but then there is
So we're just transferring.
the liquidating damages, I guess you could call them, for We Transport in their contract. If a route is late, there's a $500 fine. If it doesn't show up, there's a $500 fine. I mean, I don't know all. I know $500 is the typical fine. So right now, when that first invoice comes, Joe Savone and Joni in our transportation department, they're pulling together all of the mayhem of these last 4 weeks to figure out what ran, what didn't run, what we had to cover, and what that penalty is going to be. Then we are going out for that RFP for transportation. So I know the price that Orange County is charging us now under an emergency contract, because there are setup costs for them to come down here and get everything in place to be covering routes for us. Once we put out that RFP, and I'm
Those costs
assuming
can
that
come
they're
down.
going to be bidding on it, then we can do some negotiating with them.
Okay, all right. Just so you know, that woke me up 3:50 a.m. the other morning, and kept me up probably for 40 minutes as it was, So I just want to make sure that we're going to try and be made whole, and there's no additional cost that's going. All right, so we have a motion and a second. Okay, any other questions? All in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Item 9 is field trips. We have a consent agenda A through C. Any motion, please? Okay, Alex, second by Sabrina. Questions or discussions? All in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Item 10 is donations. It's only one item, donation from United Fence and Guardrail. Any motion, please? Mr. Isernia, second. Okay, Mr. Reynolds. Questions or discussions? Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. If we can get a letter out to them, I know they're a Sachem family that's gone through, all of their children have gone through our schools, and they've been very, very generous over the years. So we can get a letter out to this family. I greatly appreciate it. Item 11 is budget transfers. Okay, I need a motion, please. Okay, Ms. Reynolds, second by Ms. Isernia. Questions or discussions? Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Item 12 is Committee on Special Education. We have a consent agenda A and B. I need a motion, please. Alex Picarillo, second by Matt Bauman. Questions or discussions on these items? All in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Item 13, action items. It's the approval of additional board committee members. Any motion, please? Meredith, second by Mike Cernian. Questions or discussions? All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Items 14, okay, is the first reading of policies 4327. Any motion, please? Sabrina, second. Ms. Cernian. Questions or discussions on this? All in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Monthly reports. Any updates from our? I know we have a discussion tonight on charges for the committees. I know the committees haven't met yet. I know the first one that's coming up is going to be the audit committee. Any updates? Anybody have any updates to the board that are liaisons? No.
The 4th at 7 o'clock. Conference room A.
Okay. Closing public statement. Chris, anything? Public comment? Any business? No. Old business. Chris, no old business to report. Okay. Item. Yeah.
Should it's really not old business, but we have to make a decision today who's going to represent us.
Yeah, that's section 18, Mike. It's
Oh, is it?
part of discussions. The last section.
Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of on, starts on one page and finishes on the top. The NISBA
Wow.
resolutions.
Thank you. Yes. Let's move
Okay.
forward.
So, board discussions. I guess I'll turn it over to Dr. Pelletieri to introduce all of these, and then we'll have a discussion and try to come to some type of consensus.
Sure. So I don't know. You want to start? I don't know what order we want to go in. Board committee charges. You want to start there? Board committee charges, or we can jump? Okay.
So we asked the board to go back and look at some charges for Budget Advisory Committee as well as the Legislative Committee. I don't know if there was, I didn't receive any email, but was there any charges specifically for those particular groups at this time? I know we looked at the Legislative Committee to continue looking at the security guard training plan as well to see if we can kind of maybe get some of our local officials in. NISBA did not accept that as one of the ones that they did not accept as a resolution. Certainly one that we're going to have to, I guess, discuss with them on that business meeting that's coming up. Any other charges for the Legislative Committee? I know Stephanie's not here tonight. She's really involved in that. Charges to Legislative, Ms. Cernian?
Was there a charge related to the legality of placing that battery bank in the town? Were we going to ask them to look at that?
Is that something we want the Legislative Committee to look at? Or is that something that we want to, I mean, that's more of a legal matter that we're addressing right now. But, I mean, it's possible if the board is in agreement with charging with that. But I mean, we do have our attorneys on that right now. Yeah, so.
Are they holding the legislative forum? Are they going to be doing that?
I think, yeah,
We're
they're
looking
planning
forward
on
to
that,
doing it, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's something that they would be working on as well. I mean, we could charge them with mascot stuff if we want. If that's something that it might be already past that stage. Charter school stuff, once again, we're past that stage as well. We're already discussing it. So, any suggestions that you have regarding the Legislative Committee, Meredith?
I think just allowing them to get started, because last year things got crazy and then we didn't have our forum. So just allowing them to get started on that and get that forum going, get it planned, and start getting invitations out.
Yeah. And the other thing, I know you're involved. Are you involved in the Legislative as well?
Yeah, I'm sort of an
Alternate.
alternate, right? But I know Stephanie's got a lot, and Meredith, just some of the topics. Perhaps we convene the group, and obviously, like Meredith
exactly
just said,
what I was going to suggest.
yeah, let's get the forum off the ground and maybe
Yeah.
just canvass the group to see what's on their mind, and then
Yeah.
we can take it back to the board, perhaps, and then we can discuss what they'd like to do and see if it makes sense for us. If that's
that's exactly what I was going to suggest. Man.
Yeah.
We did that with the Budget Advisory Committee a couple of years ago.
And sort of segueing into the budget advisory, right? Past couple of years, we didn't start the committee until the budget season. I don't know if the board wants to do something prior to that. Is there anything specific we want to have them investigate? So open for discussion, right? So
Budget Advisory. Yes.
I'd at least like the budget advisory, since we're going to talk about it at some point, to look at the cost of armed guards and look and see what the feasibility it is inside of our budget and how it would go above and beyond, and at least so that we have that information on top of other information that we're going to need to move forward with it.
Certainly could do that.
So what I'll do is I'll reach out to the committee members. We'll start getting a series of meetings. We'll bring that up, see if there's anything else, and hopefully by the next meeting we'll have a report.
Okay.
Okay. Cool. Thank you.
All right. I guess we're going to the First Valley trip. Okay. So First Valley trip, obviously, several years ago, it was a trip that was originally designed as a curriculum-based trip, sort of for the middle school 8th graders that challenge themselves to go into an honors earth science program. And at the time, I guess approximately 100 plus or 110 kids would attend that trip. Okay, and it was, I guess, a two-day trip, overnights, where they would study the environment, and the different parts of rock formations, so on and so forth, that was specifically related to that particular trip. And we haven't had a trip in many years, and I think for a couple different reasons. Obviously, COVID hit. COVID kind of put a damper on a lot of different things that, especially trips, overnight trips, as a result of that outbreak. But the fact that it went from a course-specific trip, okay, to a all-inclusive trip. And what it did was it created these barriers that kind of prohibit us from continuing to have that trip, because of the ratio of teachers that we need, or staff members that we need to supervise the number of kids that potentially would be eligible for that trip, made it almost impossible to be able to do that. And I'm of the belief that if we can't do it for all, okay, if it's not for all, then nobody can go, is sort of a bad philosophy. It's an educational trip that has been going on for decades and decades, and kids come back from that trip very excited about being able to be part of that. So in order to restore that trip, okay, the conversation, or the request that I made was, do we want to return it to a course-specific trip? Okay, potentially both at the 8th grade level as well as the 9th grade level. So instead of bringing 300 kids all in one shot, maybe you bring in 1 year, you bring in 150, middle schoolers, but then you bring in maybe 150 to 200 9th graders. So every child can have an opportunity to explore that, but broken up so that it's a feasible trip. And I requested that it come to the board for consideration, because I hate to let another year go by where we're not providing this opportunity for kids, because it really is a lost opportunities. A lot of our surrounding school districts are doing this trip, and these kids are getting that leg up and that advantage over our kids, by participating in that. So I wanted to have this discussion as to how we want to proceed. Do we want to give direction to our middle school, as well as possibly our high schools, as to moving forward, what can we do to make this trip feasible? Rather than let it sit and not every year, not having that trip over and over again, what can we do to kind of revive this opportunity for kids? Meredith?
So unfortunately, it was the pandemic that affected it. So our kids, my son Dylan, they were ready to go on First Valley. It was actually a week and 2 weeks before the kids were ready to leave. So it was feasible, and it did it without the pandemic, it would have happened for the entire grade. So it's feasible, and I think that we need to look at it in that way, because I don't think that we as a board, some of us were on this board at that time, we voted for all the children to get this experience, because there are children who bust their butts just as hard in the classroom, but just could never get into that honors class. So I do believe that we should look at it. If we're going to break it up, we should break it up, still have it as all 8th graders get to go, but then break it up into trips. If we have to break it, 2 trips per school, I think that would be the same expense, wouldn't it be? If we're going to take 300 kids at once or 150 twice, I think that's pretty much the same expense. So why couldn't we do it that way?
I don't do the issue of expense. Once again, my thing is that you're losing teachers over a period of 3 days 2 times now, instead of losing them 1 time. And getting teachers to be able to want to participate and bring that many kids at one shot, I think it's a challenge. It's a challenge. I mean, I've certainly have gone on my share of trips where I've brought 120 kids, and it's a challenge. It's very, very difficult. An overnight trip. I used to be a skills USA advisor, and I would go up to Syracuse every year for 2 nights with 120 11 and 12 graders. and it's work. It's a lot of work. You're roaming the hallways at 2 o'clock in the morning. You're roaming the parking lots 2 o'clock in the morning. And I got to be honest with you, you know, a lot of our teachers have families, and one of the reasons why I couldn't do that trip anymore because I started to have a family, and it made it very, very hard even for my spouse to be able to get my kids to where they need to be in my absence.
But we had
So-
it ready to happen. So I don't see how, if we had it ready to happen then, how can it, like, people are changing their mind? I mean, we had all those people
It's a big
in place,
responsibility. But
and they
when
were
it was
willing to do
a
it.
course-specific trip, it was much, much more feasible. You know, my older child, who's now 23, had that opportunity. He went, loved it. You know, he worked really, really hard to get into that program, into that class. And I guess the benefits in the 8th grade class was that they had an opportunity to go on that trip.
Right, but what about the special ed kid who works just as
once again,
hard but
but it-
can't get in that class because he cannot make it into that class?
You know, listen, you know,
That's
there
not-
there may be opportunities in 9th grade.
And the
to also
special
do
ed
it.
child, most of the time, has to go through many different hoops that
Mm-hmm.
other children don't have to go through. So why couldn't we give this reward
It has
to everyone?
nothing. Well, because right now, while it's, and we could debate this all night, but right now, as it is, it's not a feasible trip. We haven't been able to do it. It's not feasible.
But I don't understand why, and I wish somebody would just come out in the open and say why it's not. If it was feasible, you know, before the pandemic, if we had the staff, the capability, the wherewithal to do it, then why don't we have it now?
You know, once again, that's a question I can't answer. I mean, I could speculate.
I know, and I can't
maybe
get an
maybe
answer
it's the fact that maybe staff, you know, with the whole concept of COVID, doesn't want to be in confined environments. You know, with the potential of getting COVID again. That, you know, that changed a lot of things as well. But once again, we can get that answer.
Dr. Pelletier, can I just share a little bit from our committee that the board asked us to form? And then I know you have a lot of information and details. The committee actually offered a couple of different options for Frost Valley, but I just want to go back because I appreciate what you said, Meredith. It wasn't everyone in the 8th grade has to go. The trip just became open to anyone in the 8th grade that wanted to go. So even at that time, if there was 300 kids in a grade, we didn't necessarily have 300 kids going. Some kids just didn't want to go, or it was they had other plans, or it just wasn't to their liking. In all fairness, this is the first time that we're really able to say, do we want to run it? Because there really is no more restrictions. If you remember last year, my own school district, Sable, they went and a whole bunch of the kids got COVID, so they ended up being stuck up there. I think this is the first year we don't have any masks, we don't have any regulations, and you know, I know Dr. Pelletier has a little bit more information, but we were just looking to see from the board through this discussion, like, what are the options you want us to look at? And then I think we can go out and share with staff. And we have Ms. Vara, who's up in district office looking at dates if it's still feasible. So I think we just haven't revisited yet to say, like, what is the model? Do we want to still have it open to all? Not necessarily everyone's going to go, but or do we want to do an option where the 8th graders who are in earth science and then our 9th graders, do we want to make it course specific? But yes, it was at the heart of being more equitable in that we knew not every student was going to go, but we knew that not all students can get into earth science in 8th grade. So we were just going to open it and see what we got. We did get larger numbers, but we definitely did not get the entire 8th grade coming at that time. So I just wanted to say that.
Alex, you had your hand up.
Sorry, Aaron, that you may have just answered this, and I just, but if we
Just looking at my
if we had the trip today and we offered it to every 8th grader, do we have enough staff to offer it to every 8th grader that wants to go? Yes, sir.
So I can't answer that right now because we didn't send any options out of like what we're looking to do.
So I
But I
guess-
will tell you that Mr. Barbera, through the recommendation of Dr. Pelletier, did send out a survey to the staff. So we're just waiting to hear back from the staff in terms of who would be interested in chaperoning for
Yeah,
us.
so as
And
much
it's not
as-
just building specific. We then also send it out across the district to any teachers who are beyond that particular building. But to your point, Mr. Scavo, you know, we don't want teachers out numerous times for days on pound days. So we do try and take the staff that's in the building first. We've even taken TAs, we've been open to aides, but we also have to think about the fact that we have to bring nurses with us. If there's a child with a disability who has a one-to-one aide, we have to bring that person with us. So, you know, but I think it's a healthy talk because we really haven't had one in a while because we haven't been able to do it in a while.
Yeah, so I guess for me personally, before I take a vote or decide, I need to know whether or not we have the staff that wants to go.
So-
We can argue about this all night, but if we either have the staff or we don't, we need to know.
I asked Mr. Barbera, he was having a meeting yesterday, I think, and he's probably collating some of that information now. But to poll middle schools and the high school in terms of ninth grade, in terms of kids taking earth science and teachers in all those buildings, in the 5 buildings. Might they have, what kind of sense would we get about numbers in terms of staff being able to go and be part of the trip, staying overnight? It's 3 days and 2-night trip. So we're getting that information now.
Attorney?
So yeah, I know we've had this discussion before, and so I mean, I always go back to what was the purpose of the trip to begin with, right? And it was part of our honors 8th grade earth science curriculum, where they would go upstate and they would see real world examples of erosion and sedimentary layers, and they would walk through the woods and they'd be pointed out all these different things that they were learning about. That was the purpose, right? So it was designed to match a curriculum. Is that correct?
Without a doubt, it's a curriculum based. It is designed to match the earth science curriculum.
But but now it's, I heard Meredith use the word, it's a reward. So it's morphed. It's starting to morph into something it wasn't really designed for, right? It was designed to match a curriculum. So, I mean, I have no qualms. I think the 8th grade honors students, if they want to go, should go. And certainly if we're teaching the same exact curriculum in 9th grade, and the 9th grade teachers want to take the 9th graders up there, they should be able to do that. That's what it was designed for. It's not a celebratory thing. It's supposed to be an educational trip to provide real world examples of what they've just learned in the classroom. So
that is certainly an option that would be available.
I do just
us.
want to say, though, the earth science curriculum does match the 8th grade curriculum. That's something that we're going to talk about in the future. So it's not just for, like, the standards have changed so that if a child did want to bypass and go to earth science and not necessarily take a full year of 8th grade, because the standards match so similarly. If you remember a couple of years ago, I think 2017 as well, we used to have living environment and earth science at the 8th grade level. And I think that was also because some kids were just not studying earth science. Now all of our students are either taking the 8th grade, which matches the earth science standards, or earth science. So it's not really even about the curriculum anymore. It's just what kind of model do we want to have moving forward, because we don't even have the same program anymore as when the trip was first crafted as just an honors earth science trip.
Aaron, wouldn't 2 smaller trips be a lot more manageable to handle? Okay, especially
Sure.
when you're hiking for 6 hours and you're on very slippery
Yeah,
terrain.
it's an arduous
and you're walking
physical
through
trip.
woods and,
Mhm.
and water and your toes are freezing.
Yeah, I
mean,
personally
you know,
wouldn't want to
having,
go, especially as you're saying.
250 kids versus having 2 groups of 120. Okay, isn't it a more manageable number, and wouldn't it be more enticing to staff to want to say, all right, you know what, I'll take 10 of the 120.
Yeah, I think that's why surveying is going to be really important for us in our decision making, because when I think we have to see what staff are available, to your point, right? Some staff have families now, they don't, or they just don't want to, or maybe they're still concerned. But then I think we also have to survey our families and our students to see who would even want to be on the trip. This may be for nothing. There may only be 100 kids or 75 kids who are interested. The trip is also pretty costly. It's over $350. And I'd like to say that we can make it in payments, which we do, but the fundraising would not really be nearly enough to pay for 350 students, $350. And as a district, we can't pay for field trips, as you know. So I think surveying in this early time is really going to be necessary for us. We can always hold dates. We could always say, because you do have a time frame before you have to make a final decision. But my recommendation through our committee was to say, let's just see the interest of the students and the teachers now as well.
I think we need to see whether or not we would have enough supervision, enough people to be, and I think that would drive it, because, I'm going to be honest with you, I don't like the idea of all or none. I don't. There's course specific programs. For example, the drama club goes to the city, goes to a Broadway play. And if we're going to say, well, we're not going to do course specific, then every kid should be able to buy a ticket and go to the play that day instead of, going to class. We do trips all the time. The physics class goes to Six Flags. It's specific to that curriculum. They go and take measurements on the roller coasters to measure G-force. It's course specific. But if we're going to open all these trips up to everybody, then they should be open to everybody as well. And that's my concern.
Yeah, I mean, it's not all right. We haven't run it because of the pandemic, but I agree with you. We don't want to just cancel trips because either everybody goes or nobody goes. That doesn't really sound fair. But I'm just going back to the history of why that decision was made, because we did move to all earth science in 8th grade, which was like the earth science standards. And we kind of talked about that experience, but if we want to make a different decision, I think we just have to start with surveying the staff, which Mr. Rivera is doing for us. And
So
you know.
when would we have that answer? Because I don't want another year to go by and not have our kids have this opportunity. We set a.
Yeah, I'm hopeful that he's going. Yeah, I'd be able to get that. Well, yeah, we'll give teachers a couple days to get back to us, right? So I was going to say Friday, but maybe by next week in the Friday packet. Yeah.
Okay. So I guess what we do is maybe revisit this topic. Okay. Come back to it so that we can possibly do something this year. So our kids have this opportunity because, my kids were out actually, during the pandemic, they also missed out on this trip, and, to be honest with you, I don't know that, one would have felt comfortable being around 300 kids, but I don't know that the second would have been comfortable being around 300 kids. So we have to think about that as well as is what's comfortable for the kids, but I said we could revisit this and we can come back and certainly after the survey is done.
Is the trip over the weekend?
So depending on the school, it was a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or
Come home
Friday,
Saturday.
Saturday, Sunday. But most of them were Thursday, Friday, and they were all in March and the beginning of April.
So the chaperones get a fairly good stipend to go.
Sure, yeah, of course.
So
And we have an administrator from each building go as well.
Right. So I run the senior trip for my school every year. And we take about 200 kids to Disney, and I have maybe because it's Disney, I have no trouble getting. I have a list a mile long of people that want to go on this trip. So maybe now that we're away from the COVID, is there a reason why you?
Forest Valley, Disney World. It's a little different.
No, but the Forest Valley has nice sweatshirts. Is there a reason why? Because I got to be honest, I kind of agree with Meredith. I think it's a shame. Is there an 8th grade trip like at the end of the year, or?
So for the past 2 years, we wanted to kind of make sure that the kids who were in 5th grade, for example, could experience their boat trip in 8th grade. So we did the boat trip this past year. We did the Jones Beach, and then they also have an end of the year event, which is like a carnival and a dance at the same time. And so we're trying, like in our committee, we were trying to make like 2 cohorts. So kids who were still traveling through, who missed out on pandemic events, and then who would start fresh like in kindergarten. So
Is
in
it-
8th grade, we knew that obviously Forest Valley would needed to be something that we look back on and address and get some more information on. But then there was also a suggestion of like a New York City trip. So to do something like with a theme of liberty, going down to 9/11, Ellis Island, Statue of Liberty, going up to one of the museums, just trying to pick options. Medieval times, let's say for 6th grade. I could send that chart back out to you guys. But the big overnight trip being our senior year.
So is it feasible to make the Frost Valley the 8th grade end of the year trip for everybody? Everybody that wants to go? Like, why can't it be that trip? It seems like a trip that a lot of kids, they all want to go.
There's approximately 900 kids and then they'd have to, they'd pay it $345 each, something along the lines of that. We'd have to get
Mhm.
staff for it, and we'd have to do it at the end of the year. Now we got to be careful because regents at the end of the year, the earth science and algebra regents. I don't know that we want kids
Well, it
out.
doesn't have to be
3
at the
days
end.
before.
Our
but-
senior trip is in March.
Right.
So it doesn't really, so it doesn't interfere with sports, whatever. I'm just saying, it's, till, because Meredith is right.
Well, even if you had 300, like I had said, and I'm so glad, boys, that you had signed up. We didn't have the full student body going for whatever reason, and we broke it up into 3 trips, obviously, with the 3 buildings. So again, as soon as we have more information around students who want to go, staff who's interested, I think then we can probably talk more about the options and what the board would like us to look at.
Just to speculate too, would the kids go on the senior trip though? The chaperones are separate, right? They have their own rooms. Where in Forest Valley, it's all in.
You're living the life. of
You're
Frost
living
Valley,
life with
yes.
the student, and nothing. I'm not saying anything wrong with that, but when you
In the same, yeah.
same cabin, I know that demographics. If you look,
I'd like to
at-
retract
You don't want to go
everything I
anymore,
just
Mr.
said.
Bauman?
Oh, I
You
didn't
still
know
got
that.
a list a mile long?
How's that list? Is it still a mile long?
List
I
a little
retract
shorter?
everything I just said.
Yeah, I mean, you're dealing with older students. I think personally it comes down to, I hate to say the word COVID, and that whole piece of, you said Sayville, getting quarantined, getting stuck up there. A lot of the demographics of our staff, I mean, you guys could speak to it more, is probably more in that where they have young kids, like between newborn and 10, finding caregivers and, people to watch the kids. Those could be factors of where our staff is right now and in their life. There's so many factors. So ultimately we're having the discussion, but I think once we hear back from the SETA, then we could look at, is this feasible to do for the whole grade? Or, I mean, we, in the committee that we did, we were looking at more, let's go to Philadelphia for the day. That's a memorable trip for everybody, and take away that overnight piece. I know they look forward to that overnight piece, but I think they would have just as much fun of going all day to Philadelphia, or I think Boston was brought up, and a couple other places, Montauk, taking a trip out to Montauk, things like that were brought up, that all the kids could enjoy. That could be a full day trip, kind of eliminating that overnight piece where obviously it'd be more feasible for staff and chaperones.
And in terms of cost as well. So those are,
Right.
again, we wanted to put all those options on the table. And I think we should probably get an administrator or two in from the middle schools as well, or the high schools to weigh in.
From Seneca, God, I can't think of his name. The new AP there.
Oh, Tim Rogers.
Rogers.
Yes.
He had some phenomenal suggestions because his experiences from the city, and they go everywhere. The city
Get the
schools.
subway, you can go anywhere.
You could go
right?
anywhere, right?
Yep.
They're more feasible to head out from the city than coming from
Yep.
Suffolk County, Long
Yep.
Island. But he had some fabulous ideas of some memorable trips that, Frost Valley isn't feasible. I think that we can give them just as much of an experience. But again, we'll wait for the survey and go from there.
So Chris, if you could put this on tentatively for next meeting, okay, so that we can continue the conversation, but we'll have a better idea as to whether or not it's feasible to bring the whole group in one shot or divide it up.
Yes, sir. We'll put it on board discussion again.
Last section is the NISBA resolutions, virtual meeting. Mike, you had suggested this. I don't know if you want to.
Well, Allison has to enter who's going to represent us. So, as far as I'm concerned, it should be the president or the vice president again. I just want to make sure we select somebody and have her enter that so we're represented. So,
as I said to Sabrina, I'm available that day. I know that it's probably 6 hours in front of a computer. Okay, and the opportunity, the chances of even getting selected, okay, to even speak on some of the resolutions that you brought up, sometimes are slim to none. And that's the frustrating thing about this. Up to last year, and all the years I've been on the board, we really didn't participate in this conference because, we're just hoping that the resolution gets to the level where the NISBA will then put it on the desk of a senator or an assembly.
well, you might have some more backing on I don't know if you noticed, but the Nassau Suffolk School Board Association has recommended our School Security Act resolution. So you do have the backing of that organization. Well, I guess first, anybody, what's our plan for who's going to go?
Doesn't matter.
I have no problem with Rob doing it.
I don't have a problem. I can do it.
Okay. So,
I still think, though, at the end of the day, whatever we want to approve as a group, we should put packets together and we can get it out to our local assemblymen and senators and push it ourselves as well. And we could task the legislative committee with something like that, put a packet together. Here's what we want to see as our district. And because I have no faith in either one of these groups. So I don't even think we should be members anymore, but that's just my personal opinion.
Of all the resolutions, there was a packet. Did anybody get a chance to look at the?
Yeah, I got it here, Rob. So I don't know.
Is there any resolutions on there? I don't have it in front of me. Any resolutions on there that we don't agree with or do not want to approve?
I can't speak for the board, but these were all the ones that we submitted, right, on behalf of the board, right?
The ones that we submitted.
That we submitted.
But
yeah.
there's a
I don't know.
much
Maybe
much
Mike's got
larger
a better
book.
got a handle on what we can't, the larger list.
trying to think if there was any one I was completely opposed to. You're talking about now when you're in the convention actually voting
Yeah,
for.
in the convention, we have to vote on the 30 plus.
Well, we probably could discuss at the next meeting.
Yeah,
we just
we can
needed to
do it
get
next
somebody.
meeting.
We
Yeah,
just
we
needed
can-
to
we
get
can do
somebody
that. Yeah,
selected
so
by
what it
11th.
says is it was an email to us. It's a PDF.
Yeah.
Go through that. If there's anything in there that really stands out that you have concern with, that you think could be harmful, or maybe has some type of underlining agenda as to maybe it's perfect for an upstate school, but not maybe perfect for our school, and we don't want to support it. Just put a little asterisk so we can discuss it at the next meeting.
Yeah, okay.
So going into that, know exactly what resolutions we're going to vote on.
I would also suggest for you, Rob, I know I wasn't prepared for it as much because I didn't know the format, to have just a little blurb about the ones we are going to support so that you can have something to read because you only have, a minute or two. And like I said, once you put your hand up and they call on you, they tend to go to the schools that sponsored it first. Which when last year for the school security one, it was Savo. He raised his hand. And then all of a sudden everybody after was opposed. So by the time I raised my hand, they never got to me, and then they didn't vote to extend the time. So I just, stress to, virtually raise your hand and have something, written up and ready to go, that we agree with to, put our words out there of why we put those forth. Because that definitely held back, because those two, well, not the security, but the other ones, they came really close, a couple of them. So I think if you're, we're just prepared with why we're putting that out there, I think that we could get them to pass.
So once again, I'm not familiar with the format, so I guess as it comes up, you have to get your hand up right away.
Yeah, they'll say, who wants to speak to this. Well, first they'll vote if we're going to bring it to the table to vote on it, and then you raise, whoever wants to speak to it raises their hand. So you have to literally just put your hand up right away, and they try to look at who sponsored it. So they saw the Sable person's hand first, called on him, but then they started calling on other people, and then they went in order. So I just think as soon as you can raise your hand for those ones that we sponsored that didn't get approved, just to get your hand up and then have a blurb ready, because you only have, I think, a minute to speak.
So Rob, I actually agree with Alex. We've got this packet, Meredith on the legislative committee. We should bring this up to them and maybe start pushing it on our own, because this process just seems like you're going to spend 6 hours.
It's time consuming, and you have a small chance of landing on the desk of of an elected official.
Yeah. So if everybody's okay, we can at least approach the legislative committee with these.
Yes.
I think a lot of the stuff came from the community anyway. So
Everybody okay with that? That's okay. All right. So next, once again, NISBA resolutions, if we could just put it on there, we'll do is we'll check off the ones we support, the ones we don't, and then we'll put those blurbs together on the ones that we proposed. All right. Any other discussions, Chris? Is that okay? Future discussion items, Meredith. I know you had one earlier about Chris. You got that as far as highlighting programs that create those manipulatives. It's our CT program.
Yeah.
Okay. Mike?
So I'm sure you all saw in the news that Massapequa has filed a federal lawsuit with regard to indigenous mascot imagery and logos. I think we should put a future agenda item on to discuss the state of where we're at with regard to that, and to have our attorneys keep tabs on whether or not they do seek and obtain an injunction, which would forestall any motion on that activity before we do something or spend money that we end up 2 years from now finding out we didn't have to spend. So we put that as maybe not the next meeting, we made a meeting after that. I'm sure that's not going to happen right away, but maybe a month from now. We'll see how that lawsuit progresses, but certainly we should discuss at that point, seeing as that could take quite a while to work its way through the court system until there's a final adjudication. If they were to win, it might be 2 years from now, and then we went and did things that we cannot undo. So maybe we should put that on the agenda to keep an eyes on that.
Everybody all right with that? Any other future discussion items? Sabrina?
It's kind of a little bit of old business too, because I've brought it up in the past about after school clubs. I know last year I had brought up about maybe the clubs being able to meet more often. And someone had reached out to me about them wanting to start up a club, and then hearing that a lot of clubs got canceled, which I believe is probably because of COVID money running out. So I'm just kind of curious of like maybe a breakdown of the clubs and what's included. I know when I look at the high schools, a lot of the clubs, under the clubs, which I see the importance of them, are honor societies that are exclusive, where not every kid can join. You have to be a certain grade level. There's criteria. Is there another way to possibly fund those honor societies to open up where maybe clubs can meet more often, or some of the clubs that did get cut? I've heard that anywhere from 5 to 10 clubs that I don't know, that that's why I'm bringing it up here, that clubs got cut for the year, and also why they got cut, based on numbers. Was there any data to it as to what got to stay and what had to go? I also believe that treasurers get paid within the club budget, and is there anywhere to put that somewhere else so we can open up more club money for the students to either A, have more clubs, or B, allowing those clubs to meet more often so kids who aren't in a sport or aren't in drama or have somewhere to go a little bit more often. And I spoke to also how some of these kids, if they have extra help, they miss the club and now they have another month until they can go to that club again. So I don't know if we can just kind of at some point look at that budget and, to see how maybe we can either bring some of these clubs back or have the clubs that, that are inclusive where any kid can join could possibly meet a little bit more often. I mean, I don't know if student government needs to meet, twice a month, that might be fine to meet once a month, but some other clubs where, kids are enjoying them, that especially on the middle school level, I think those kids want to get really involved, and, meeting once a month really isn't they want to go more often. So I don't know if we
Ms.
can look at
Eden
that.
and Michelle and I we are going to meet actually tomorrow. Aren't we huddling tomorrow, in your word? We met last year with SCTA, Mr. Barbera, Mr. Weston, to kind of look at clubs and to reorganize who's where in what budget, because we do have so many honor societies. I can send you, if Dr. Pelletieri's blessing, of what we ran last year versus what we have running this year. And we really did not lose many, if any, clubs in some of the buildings at all. It's just that freedom of being able to say, yes, you run a club, you run a club. We don't have that Oprah effect of the grants anymore to just be able to. So we did need to go back to our process of student interests and running club fairs and choosing which clubs we're going to run. But that's our work this year, is so that Michelle can build into the budget. So things like, do we have the capacity to take out the honor societies? Because those really aren't a club. And then things like robotics, we would say that that's a program really that we're running at this point, just like marching band has its own budget. So how can we restructure that so that the monies that are actually for the clubs can be for clubs, not things that we had to play for with club money in the past, if that makes sense.
Just going to piggyback on that. You talked about program. We also explored with the SCTA some things that may be considered curriculum based. So we're trying to be creative and finding ways, like you said, the treasurer, taking a look at, what kind of mechanisms we can do that will also allow us to be in compliance with financials, because sometimes there are some particulars we have to follow that we can't jump into. But we do have one tomorrow afternoon, and after we've met together to review, then we have an SCTA meeting that we'll be scheduling with Mr. Barbera and Mr. Weston.
Great. So if you could just keep us updated. Perfect. Thank you.
Any other future discussion items? None? Okay. At this point, I need a motion to go into exec session. Our next meeting is actually scheduled for October 11th here in the boardroom. Motion to go into exec session, discuss negotiations and contractual negotiations of a staff member. Alex Picarillo, second. Meredith Volpe, all in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Have a good evening.